Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the Colonial Dungeon, this is the Court-Martail Podcast! Introducing your host for this evening, he has a bald spot on the top of his head, and he weighs in tonight at a number you don't need to know. He is the Colonial Loudmouth, Sean McCarty! And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, one and all. This is an unprecedented, groundbreaking edition of the Court-Martail Podcast and the Totally Awesome Podcast, which we will get to in a second. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, happy to be here for our Hell in a Cell 2020 review. And before I give them the third man our intros, I got to pass it off to my official co-host here for his podcast. He is the monster chugging, beanie wearing, always swearing, TAW associate, always inappropriate, the solitary reason. The solitary reason that YouTube refuses to monetize this program, the self-proclaimed bottom boy, your friend and ours, JoshAgeddon. Welcome to my show, and you're the host of your show. Take it away, my man.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Totally Awesome Podcast, the TAP, the worst podcast you've ever heard. It's so bad, it'll make you tap out. And God, that was such an amazing introduction. It rhymed.
I did rhyme.
I love rhymes. I'm 22 years old, and rhymes make me moist.
Rhymes are the best, right? That is why I am also a side rapper. I'm not getting into that. I'm not going to put the plug, but the link's in the description for all of my music. Continue.
Hashtag white knucks.
Damn right. Continue. So we have our Hell in a Cell 2020 review, but we got one more my guy to introduce. And if I may, Mr. Geddon, this man is the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour. The man needs a shower. The cream of the crop, the top of the heap. The man with ideas, he soon tends to weep. Your friend and mine, the one, the only, Skyler Greenberg. Welcome back to the show.
I'm on a highway to hell. Boom, boom, highway to hell.
Oh, God.
Skyler takes a shower.
My gimmick now is that I sing a song.
At least we now know what you sing in the shower, Sky. And I have to take... I have to take that part back I added in Joshua's introduction where he is the solitary reason YouTube refuses to monetize this program, because I forget that he uses copyrighted songs and sings them on this program. So we have so no monetization here, but that's not what this is about. This is about Hell in a Cell 2020, a very intriguing show, WWE show featuring the good, the bad, and the ugly, as per usual. Let's start with you, JoshAgeddon. How did you feel overall about the show?
The 3 cell matches were really good. Everything else was either or sucked.
That sounds about as JoshAgeddon a review as I've ever heard it in all the years we've been doing these. Yeah. And Sky, what is your impression of the show?
It had a fantastic, orgasmic beginning, and then it kind of got quiet for the next 2 hours before it had a fantastic end.
It's okay.
Everything in the middle was a giant mess.
It's weird how Skyler got a little bit more sexual than I did.
I knew having both of you on the show was going to be problems. I know right now I'm going to try and moderate this as best as possible, but I know this is going to get weird real fast. So if you're tuning in for the first time, ladies and gentlemen, to what the Court-Martail Podcast is about, prepare yourselves.
And if you're tuning into the Totally Awesome Podcast for the first time, we don't care. Whatever happens, happens.
Well, we know with the Totally Awesome Podcast, we know what's up. We've been doing this. We've been doing this for a long time.
We search for the truth.
That's right.
We use the term awesome very loosely.
Very loosely, but loose enough to keep it together.
Yes. Loose enough for my pantaloons.
So we start out the show with arguably what I consider to be one of the best pieces of business of the night. Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. By the way, does anyone have anything to say about the pre-show?
I see it was R-Truth defending the 24/7 title against Drew Gulak. I would actually rather hang myself than watch this match.
It really was nothing to write home about. I saw a little piece of it. Let's just move right along to the actual...
Why is the 24/7 title still a thing?
Because they're trying to milk an idea they had 20 years ago that was 20 years ago, and even worse in a PG setting.
Yeah.
That's the 24/7 title for you. But we are going to move right on from that because we start out with the Universal title. Skyler, what were your impressions of this match?
Another championship I despise.
I know you do, but this might be one of the best matches in it.
Here's the thing. Despite the belt sucking, everything else about the Universal Championship is glorious. And it's all thanks to one tribal chief, Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns has really been great. His heel stuff, I've been really, really enjoyed. And this match was no exception. It was a surprise to start the show with this match, though.
Yeah, I'm very surprised they started the match with a double stipulation match. It was very odd. They probably should have closed the show with this.
Yeah, I feel like with the Hell in a Cell I Quit, which, by the way, I came up with 8 years ago, but I'm not getting back into that. Watch the live stream if you want to get the actual evidence of that, because that did happen. And my subpoena is in the mail. And in any event, the Hell in a Cell I Quit, if you're adding the hat on top of the hat that is Hell in a Cell, it feels like everything past this would just lose its luster just as a result. And that did kind of happen.
And I will say, before we really get into this match, I will say I'm just grateful that we had a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view that had a Hell in a Cell match in the show that actually ended. There was no contest or disqualification finish for this Hell in a Cell show. Thank God.
They teased it, though. I was
worried that they'd do it 3 years in a row.
They did tease it.
Yeah, they did.
In this match, actually.
Yeah.
So, this was... there's really only one spot that I really want to talk about. Do you guys have any spots or points in the match that you really want to articulate? Sky, let's start with you.
So, the only nitpick I have about this match is that it definitely felt like it was more storytelling than an actual wrestling match. And
Fair.
I think that's because Jey Uso is not a diverse wrestler. But Roman Reigns and him really carried the emotional storytelling, along with enough action violence to really pick up the story. Roman Reigns throws a mean uppercut.
He does.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah, now that he's a heel, you can see him laid in.
He's along with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton as having the best punches in WWE.
Yeah, honestly, an underrated punch. And probably one we'd appreciate looking back at some of his previous matches. But definitely since he's been a heel, it's been a lot more intense.
The first uppercut he threw at Jey Uso, I thought he popped off Jey Uso's head. Like, I saw his head flying back. I'm like, ooh, that looks like it broke a jaw.
It was a terrific sell, too, by Jey. Jey Uso, underrated seller. I am now coming to really appreciate what he's been doing selling for everything that Roman threw at him.
But, Skyler, what was your nitpick of the match?
That it was definitely more storytelling, and that was because they were trying to carry Jey Uso, who doesn't necessarily have a diverse moveset.
Yeah.
And it's understandable because he's a tag team guy, so he doesn't have to have a big moveset for the tag team.
Yeah, but I myself have a critique. I really like this match, but I do have a different critique for this match. It felt a little bit of a retread of their Clash of Champions match, except the only difference was the finish and the fact that there was a cage around it. So it was good. It was really good. Everything that was happening was entertaining and fun to watch. But again, I felt like I was just watching the same exact match from Clash of Champions. But other than that, it was good.
We almost felt like
that me and Sean both said on our Clash of Champions review.
Yeah.
Is that we said that, hey, can we take this match and run it back because it was so good? And lo and behold, they did.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I agree it was good, but again, I felt like I was watching the exact same thing, and I was like, but I do think it was better than the Clash of Champions match.
Agreed.
Purely because they could use weapons.
Well, not only that, you almost feel like the cell itself, this match could have just been an I Quit match without the Hell in a Cell, and I would have been just as serviced by it.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, it was a gimmick on top of a gimmick that I don't think really added any gravitas, especially because nobody gets juice anymore either.
Plus, the cage is red. It looks like a Twizzler cage.
I still hate that. Still hate the colored cages.
It does not look intimidating at all.
No. It looks more contrived,
It looks like
honestly.
a playground.
It looks like a Twizzler playground.
It does. It does. And it's gnarly, but
It looks like it belongs in Willy Wonka's candy factory. and Oompa Loompas will start climbing the cage and jumping off, saying, Oompa Loompa, Doopa Dee Dee.
if they had gone with that instead of if they did the Alpha and Sika thing and then just Roman Reigns just holds his arm up and then just an army of Oompa Loompas comes up and carries Jimmy and Jay away, that would be...
The Oompa Loompas with Samoa Warpaint dragging
Oh my God.
That would 100% turn my perception around of this show indefinitely.
And then Johnny Depp comes up on the stage with a top hat.
Oh, God. And that's what this match was, folks, was that. That's exactly what happened.
And another thing, I did not really pay much attention to the commentary tonight. I did have it on. But there were two things that Michael Cole said that just drove me just nuts. Actually, I think it might have been one thing that he said. When Roman Reigns came out, well, no, it was Jey Uso that came out, and he had the thing around his neck, the ring, the flower ring.
Yeah.
And Michael Cole says, this thing represents culture and heritage. And I'm like, this boy, the whitest man in the room, this robot man, is talking about Samoan culture. I call bullcrap on this. It was so cringeworthy.
Could you imagine, though, like, on Instagram, like, next week, you see him, like, all the way in the back, like, you see them, like, on an island with, like, all the Wild Samoans. Michael Cole lays around him, actually, like, doing ceremonies and stuff.
You remember the old dance that the Usos used to do when they were baby faces? Imagine Michael Cole coming out to the stage and going, Abua, 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 Sabua.
That we're gonna get another Michael Cole heel turn with Roman Reigns.
Oh, and they also referenced that heel turn.
I know.
And I can't believe it's been almost a decade since that Michael Cole heel turn.
I know, and we'll get to that. The one spot I want to mention on this match, though, was the drive-by into the steel steps, into Jey Uso's head, into the ring post. That looked A-grade, brutal.
Yeah, that was gnarly.
That was the most brutal spot of the night.
And the slaps, I mean, I loved the use of the strap. Again, the sell was not necessary because the strap was serviceable as the weapon. I mean, they both got welts on their back. The story was told well. The only thing, I think I have to agree with Sky, like, I love storytelling, but there were times when this match was just like 2 to 3 minutes of talking.
Yeah.
And it was
a lot
just
of screaming.
It was just a lot of acting. And it's like, I don't mind a little bit of acting in my wrestling, but when it's so, like, it's almost like you're doing cutscenes without actually doing cutscenes. And I don't need that necessarily as much as I'd rather have the story via the match itself.
And another thing, I'm surprised that they let Jey Uso wrap the whip around Roman Reigns' neck and choke him. I got some Daniel Bryan flashbacks on that. I'm surprised that people were okay with that.
Well, I mean, considering that Jay and Jimmy have both gotten, I believe, arrested a few times, I'm pretty sure that whole family's just untouchable. You know? I don't think it's, I mean, Nia Jax, for Christ's sakes, is still, they're untouchable.
Nia Jax is a champion, don't remind me.
Don't worry, they won't.
You're a cousin of The Rock, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, you can break one of your top stars' noses and ruin one of your pay-per-view's main events. But no, you'll just get a little slap on the wrist and it's fine.
And that's but this, but still,
as much as the talking, like, I do agree, they did a little bit too much talking, but the talking really added to this match and really
without a doubt,
characters,
without a doubt,
especially Roman Reigns. And this is a point I wanted to make on the Clash of Champions review, but we didn't have a chance to. There's something about Roman Reigns' heel character that I notice is different from other heel characters, and that is that he doesn't enjoy delivering the punishment that he gives. Like, it hurts him to have to hurt Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso the way he does. And that's really different and refreshing because I'm kind of tired of guys who enjoy inflicting pain because it gives them pleasure. Like, that's such a tired trope.
Yeah.
Well, I think that they've really built this whole feud up very nicely as the way it's on paper, you look at Roman Reigns and Jey Uso and go, you know, but they really have knocked it and out of the park with just the kind of really in-depth way that they're really tapping into their history and who they are as people, which you don't get enough of people really are, or at least you can believe that they really are. And I think that you're getting that out of this feud, and particularly out of Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. Not so much Jimmy, but in these matches, you're getting that out of them, and you can feel that. And I think that's why this emotion carries. And even though they're doing a lot of acting, it's kind of okay because you're still emotionally along for the ride enough to remain invested, if that makes sense.
There was one more thing that really stood out to me that I thought was kind of hilarious. They had Appa and Sika come out on stage, and whenever they do like a family-related feud, a bloodline feud, something like this, they'll have family members come out and say, "Stop the violence, your family." No, Appa and Sika saw what Roman Reigns did to his cousins, and they came out and they applauded him for it.
I love that.
They were like, "Good job, Roman."
I love that.
Well, isn't Appa Roman's dad?
Yes.
Yeah. They're like, "You beat your cousins up. Good job." Like, what asshole parent,
I'm gonna make a point about that later, but let's talk about the finish of this match.
I love the finish.
Jey Uso laying in the ring, dead to the right, but he won't quit. Roman Reigns about to crush his head with the steel chair, and Jimmy Uso runs in to save his brother, and he's trying to talk to Roman and trying to say, "Things will be okay. Things will be okay. Stop doing what you're doing. I don't know you, man, so please stop this. We're brothers. We're family." And Roman Reigns with a single tear rolling down the eye right before he puts him in the guillotine choke, and Jey Uso quitting to save his brother.
That was a great finish.
It was a great finish, and it was a great way to make you felt that, you know, and Roman Reigns really, he wasn't able to make himself cry, but his grimace was close enough to where it looked like he was crying, so I'll give him that. It's hard to make yourself cry on the spot, especially when you're probably blown up after 20 minutes of getting slapped around.
Yeah.
But everyone in this match did their parts perfectly.
Yep.
The referee pleading with Jey Uso to quit because he didn't want to see him hurt anymore. Paul Heyman, scared of the monster that he is trying to control.
It's
his facial expressions whenever he was on the side of the cage looking scared at Roman Reigns and what he's becoming.
I honestly think that Sky, you said a couple, I don't know, maybe it was Clash of Champions. We were talking about it, of how there is some sort of disconnect between Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns, and I think that will eventually lead to some sort of conflict between them. And I do think we are getting Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania for the third time.
No.
I think we are. I think we are. It's the only match that really makes logistical sense given the circumstances. Who else do you see taking the belt off Roman at this point?
The Rock. Because remember,
Honestly,
oh God.
At the end of this match, Roman Reigns took his place at the head of the table, and everyone in the family is scared, but they have no choice because Roman Reigns is the most dominant athlete in that family. So imagine Roman Reigns terrorizing the roster for several months until finally The Rock returns to right the wrongs of Roman Reigns.
All right, I got an idea. Now hear me out here. Roman Reigns gets hit by a car by Rikishi.
No.
Who did it for The Rock? Because The Rock doesn't like the fact that Roman Reigns is taking his place as tribal chief, so they have to fight one last time. But The Rock and Roman Reigns fight, and The Rock wins, and then Brock Lesnar comes to face The Rock, and they just kick Roman Reigns out of the main event, and Roman Reigns fights Rikishi at WrestleMania.
So, hold on. Is this your suggestion that we're good? Is this your suggestion of how we're going to get Rock versus Brock?
Brock Lesnar wins the Rumble. Boom.
Please. Yes, absolutely.
That's when he returns.
To make the internet cry.
Dude, that would be... could you imagine that they just did like a trifecta like 3 TKO punch of the Roman Reigns out of the main event, The Rock showing up, Brock Lesnar winning the Rumble and coming back and beating The Rock for the championship at WrestleMania.
Oh, I would love the tears. I would bathe in them.
It would be...
Yeah.
It's a pipe
we
dream.
have Brock Lesnar beating The Rock for the title. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns is getting a stink face from Rikishi.
In all fairness, Roman Reigns does go over. He does beat Rikishi.
Gives him a sting face. Rikishi gets some of Roman Reigns' hair stuck up in there, and he gets untangled. Then Roman Reigns spears him 1, 2, 3.
Now the Usos turn on their father and go back and join Roman Reigns.
Ooh, spicy.
See, there's too much of this family. We're already booking half of this show. Let's move on, gents.
but anyways, I'm glad that this match happened. I really enjoyed
Me too.
it. And you are right. It is time for Roman Reigns to face someone new. And who do you guys see him facing next?
Rikishi.
No,
it's not who we want to see happen. It's who we think we're going to see happen. Who is, Reigns is still on SmackDown, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
They just shuffled everybody up. I don't remember who's where.
Here,
The
I'll give you a
Miz.
couple options, okay?
The Miz.
No. He's on Raw.
Oh.
Doesn't matter. He's Money in the Bank. He can do what he wants.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's Daniel Bryan. There's
Maybe Jeff Hardy.
Jeff Hardy's on Raw.
This is so annoying. This bad draft was
Here's the thing.
bad.
I follow the product the most, so I know who's on what.
I
There's
do
Daniel
not.
Bryan,
Yeah, no, keep going,
There's
Sky.
Daniel
We need
Bryan.
this help.
there's Daniel Bryan. There's Big E. There's Kevin Owens. Seth Rollins?
I think I threw up a little bit when you said that.
I don't. There's no reason for them to fight. I mean, Seth is doing his heel stuff now. Like, he would have to turn babyface, and I'm really not ready for any Seth Rollins in anywhere near the top of the title picture.
absolutely
He's
not.
not really in that position at this point. Probably Daniel
when he
Bryan.
links his Twitter, he can get another world title shot.
They might give Big E one match, but I don't think they'll give him more than a 1-month program. Unfortunately, they'll use him as cannon fodder for Roman Reigns to keep going on.
I think probably the best option would probably be Daniel Bryan, since he's a family man and would be accepted by the way Roman Reigns is running his family.
Then Roman Reigns could just take over all of Daniel Bryan's family so that he could face John Cena at WrestleMania 37, because it was John Cena behind the Rikishi attack.
Now, Roman Reigns screwing Brie Bella.
Oh God!
You didn't know about the Clash of Champions joke I made when Roman Reigns. I said that Roman Reigns could take the wife and kids of every person he beats.
Just mount their heads on pikes.
No.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
Oh God!
Wait.
I said I had brought some facts for this show. Did you know that this Reigns Uso match is put together by Michael C.S. Hayes?
Good job,
Really?
sir. Good job, Michael Hayes. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. I will give him that. But can we go back to the minute where we were going to put women's heads on pikes?
It's
Yeah,
called
because that-
Dominant Con.
Because that took that joke to a whole different level. That where Skyler had in mind, that jumped like 10 notches up to from just taking the wives to just putting their heads on pikes. Like,
You are welcome, Sean.
so the next match.
I would rather talk about people's heads on pikes than this next match.
The next match was Jeff Hardy versus Elias. Sky, why don't we start with you? What did you think of this match?
So we needed a cool-down match after we had a fantastic 30-minute match between Reigns and Usos. The problem with this match is that it wasn't a cool-down, it was an iceberg.
Yeah. Honestly, same. I mean, it was fine. It's the disqualification that kills me. They do disqualifications on every show, and I'm just numb to it at this point. Although I will say I'm sorry for Jeff.
Hello, I'm Elias.
Oh, no. I was like, what is happening?
Sorry, I had to do
Elias
that.
and a cameo.
I had to do that.
Oh, man. Can you
Anyway.
imagine, like,
Speaking
part of Elias's
speaking of
gimmick? He
which,
just
though-
goes to random, like, wrestling podcasts and he's telling Howard to just join the call. It's just part of his gimmick.
He just randomly is like, wait a second here. I hear you're talking about my match. I came to sing a
Better not
song
be-
about how lame you all are.
I'm going to sing a song about how you guys better put me over on your podcast.
Who wants to podcast with Elias?
Oh, my God.
Oh boy.
But
So
speaking of which, Elias walks to the ring, does his gimmick of, I'm going to sing to the crowd and get heat from the crowd, but there's no crowd.
yeah, this was really stupid.
I hate the Thunderdome.
This was really stupid, given the fact that nobody was really there. And he didn't change it up to, like, all he mentioned was, like, their home, that they were in their homes, but he basically did the whole thing as if there were people in the audience, and it did not adjust well enough for me not to be like, there's nobody here. Why are you doing that?
Not going to lie, I fast-forwarded through the whole thing.
We heard the people booing, at least according to what Kevin Dunn was expressing.
Yes.
Yeah, Kevin Dunn's pumping of crowd noise was infuriating all night.
Yeah.
Especially when he was doing the what's ups for R-Truth. And then there was another one that they did that with that I can't remember.
They did a "This is awesome" when
during
someone
the
went to a
middle-
table.
Yes, that.
And I was like,
And
that is
also-
so phony.
And also the "This is awesome" chant.
Yeah. No, it was terrible, but this was not awesome. This was honestly
Can we mount Kevin Dunn's head on a pike?
Yes.
yes. You would not get
Hey,
any
here's
argument.
why.
If there's one thing we will all agree on tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it will be Kevin Dunn's head on a pike. So, honestly, this match, though, most of it was serviceable. It wasn't
I
bad.
feel sorry for Jeff Hardy.
Yeah.
There were two spots. Elias needs to stop doing that electric chair spinning into the powerbomb. He planted Jeff Hardy right on his shoulder. Then Jeff Hardy went for the Whisper in the Wind. Elias did not catch him, and again, Jeff Hardy lands right on his shoulder and neck.
And you know,
back to back. Bad night for Jeff Hardy.
what was awful about that particular spot, too, is that Elias was shown very obviously walking up, lining himself up, setting himself up, so it looked so contrived.
Yeah. And then he just got a leg right in the face.
Yeah, and then Elias is not that good of a wrestler, which is why the
He's
guitar is
not.
9/10 of his gimmick.
And then after those two really bad landings, they teased Jeff Hardy doing an apron swanton, and I was like, please, for the love of God, don't. You almost broke your neck twice already.
And then this finish, which tell me, in what universe does this finish make sense? It's Jeff Hardy, who pretty much has the match won, except that Elias was smart and left the ring before the swanton. Jeff goes after him. Elias goes to hit Jeff with the guitar. Jeff takes the guitar, and Jeff, the babyface, onto Elias, the heel, uses the guitar directly in front of the referee onto Elias to cause the disqualification. What in God's name are you thinking, Jeff?
They have to make their quota of one disqualification per show.
Yeah, but if you're going to do that, at least make it make sense. Sky, why can they
Sean,
not make this make
what company are you
sense?
talking about right now?
Well, clearly, you asked what universe, Sean. Well, clearly it's the broken verse.
So not that broken. But
Where rules do not matter and anything and everything can happen.
yeah,
It's because Jeff Hardy was blinded by his anger.
well, anything.
Allegedly.
Oh, please. The only thing Jeff Hardy was blinded by was his face paint.
Jeff had the high ground. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
It's over, Elias! I have the guitar!
Jeff had the high ground. This match was otherwise forgettable. At most.
You could have just let Jeff Hardy win or let Elias win. Did it really matter who won this match?
I don't think so.
No,
So-
this was a cool-down iceberg match. It did what it needed to do.
And then
And like the Titanic, it sunk my interest.
well, just wait. If you think that sunk your interest, then we get the People's Court / Wrestlers Court / ha ha ha. This is the community theater edition of wrestlers not knowing what to do with themselves anymore. We
fucking
had
hate my life, dude.
we had JBL officiating a contest between not a wrestling match, but an actual like court case between the plaintiffs, The Miz and Morrison, who are saying that Otis should wrestle his Money in the Bank briefcase, and Otis, who's just a fat slob, should just do it, and the defendant, Otis, being like, oh yeah, I'm the Kool-Aid Man, look at my lunchbox. And the ruling was they had to have this match at Hell in a Cell. I'm not going to even torture you with my botched description of what was absolutely terrible. Why would you let this air?
But there was one thing about it that I liked. I liked that the defendant, Otis, they had the stronger case, I guess. But since JBL is a heel, he went for the heel plaintiff and awarded them the case. I liked that. The rest of it was absolute garbage and reminded me of the Little People's Court from 2009.
Oh, come on. That was a great segment.
It was like a crappy version of that.
That was the Little People's Court was cringe.
I just want to point out that on AEW on Wednesday of that week, they had a musical segment with Chris Jericho and MJF. And on Friday Night SmackDown, they had this court case segment, and it looks like they're trying to out-top each other for terribleness.
We're going to be watching Full Gear.
Great.
Great. I can't wait to watch Full Gear. That's coming up next week. Subtle plug. Stay tuned. Next week, we're watching the Full Gear. We're having the review. Skyler and I are going to blow our brains out. But speaking of blow our brains out.
And own all of the channels.
Yeah, our heads are going to go on the pipe.
Well, tear my life into pieces because this was our last resort. It is Otis versus The Miz. There was one thing I loved about this match, and that was the outcome. Everything else can suck a bag of donkey dick.
I did like how John Morrison tried to hit Otis with the briefcase, but the referee caught him in the last second, and John tried to hide the briefcase behind his back. That was funny.
You know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of, if you guys recalled the Armageddon 2003 World Heavyweight Championship match between Kane, Goldberg, and Triple H, where Triple H had the steel chair and he was going to use it on Goldberg, but he ran into Kane, and Kane's like, what are you going to do with that? And Triple H did the same thing, where he like tried to hide the chair behind his back. And that made me go, aha, and this was what that was. And it worked.
I thought it was funny.
So I have an epiphany about Otis.
What's that?
I realized who Otis is. Otis is WWE's version of Orange Cassidy. People like him for some reason because he's entertaining that I do not see, and I think he's a terrible wrestler, and what makes him funny is not funny at all.
But he can do the caterpillar, Skyler.
Fuck the caterpillar.
Don't you want to see him get out of his cocoon? I want to see Otis metamorphose into the Otis butterfly.
I honestly, that's my least favorite part of his arsenal, is that caterpillar.
It's the worst move because Saya Kuhari would do it much better than Otis.
Well, not only that, but it's just that Otis, like, I hate his Kool-Aid Man thing where it's just like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And like, that's literally him. I've called him the Kool-Aid Man because he's about the same width. He's about the same stockiness. And I think if you did put him upside down, he would pour ginger red punch out of his head.
Is that what Sean just described? Is that a world championship contender in your eyes, Joshua?
Short answer, no. Long answer, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
And you know, honestly, I think the Tucker turn was surprising. I did not see that coming. I don't know whether they were teasing that at some point, but it was nice. That was a surprise. And then the Miz being just a surprise.
The answer, Sean, is no. It was not planned. It was all of a sudden.
That was just
random.
I think that was perfect, honestly. Well, here's why I'm excited about this. If there is ever going to be a time, it's now or never for The Miz. Truthfully, if he's going to have another world title run where he's taken at least halfway seriously, now is the time to have it.
It felt like a course correction because they realized, oh shit, we really shouldn't have put the briefcase on Otis. But what the hell are we going to do? So The Miz is a better option. It's not the best option, but it's a better option.
I think it adds at least a little more intrigue as far as who he would cash it in on, when, and how. And I think that that's something that The Miz has lacked recently. And I think that is going to really help him if he's going to, like I said, he was not ready for that world title run the first time. I think now he would do a much better job with it.
In a just world, John Morrison would have been in this match instead of The Miz.
Fair.
Yeah,
fair.
Money in the Bank, John Morrison, I'm all about that.
Yes, I would also be.
Hold on. That brings up an interesting idea. Is that does this lead to The Miz and John Morrison feuding for the briefcase?
Maybe. Or maybe Miz cashes in on either Roman or Randy Orton, becomes whatever champion, and then they have John Morrison versus Miz. I just want to see John Morrison as the world champion, okay?
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if they booked Orton to be a transitional champion for Miz again? After Drew beats Randy Orton to a bloody pulp or whatever it is going to be at this at Survivor Series.
Dude, they booked Randy Orton to be a transitional champion for Jinder Mahal.
So is this a 10-year thing, or every 10 years the Miz has to have a world championship reign because he beats up Randy Orton with Money in the Bank?
Please, yes. 2030, where you at?
See, I honestly think we have just hit the jackpot here in WWE booking. I think we found the answer and where they're headed with this. We got Rikishi. We got The Miz as a world champion. We've got...
Just repeat something that happened 10 years ago.
We are going to bludgeon our fans with nostalgia.
That is the WWE way. But you know, for all intents and purposes, it was good that this match went on before this coming match, which is our second...
Before we get to that, can I say that the backstage segment with John Morrison, Miz, whoever the interview girl was, and Tucker was atrocious.
I don't even remember what it was.
Tucker's acting was so robotic, and John Morrison looked like he was on speed.
It was Tucker trying to explain why he was doing a heel turn, and it was fine, but I'm honestly going to tell you right now, there are some people, and I saw this on the internet, who are saying that Tucker is going to be the Jannetty of this tag team. And I was like, that implies that Otis is with Shawn Michaels.
Don't you even dare.
Yeah. I share that level of offense to that statement.
That is literal blasphemy.
Yes. I concur. I very much concur.
All right, next match.
Otis is a house show jobber, lower mid-card guy. At best, you could hope that he could maybe be a mid-card champion that is taken kind of like a joke, like Santino Marella was.
But I can see him as a modern-day Santino Marella. Oh, my God, that means one day he's going to dress up as a woman.
So the next match... Moving right along, the next match... was...
Speaking of things that have been bludgeoned to death...
was the second Hell in a Cell match. This was for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It's a match that I think is hot-shotted just a little bit because this is like 4 years in the making. This should be a Mania match, but let's not get into that right now. Sasha Banks versus Bayley. Hell in a Cell. This match went 24 minutes? 26 minutes. And I felt at least 15 of them. Meaning...
I thought it was pretty good.
That... I got 10 minutes into this match, and then it just... I think it was just from the emotional roller coaster that Roman Reigns and Jey Uso was. I just couldn't get onto the train of this one. I didn't see the purpose of having a spray-painted chair be any different than any other chair, which they made some sort of big deal about, but I don't think it really bore that much significance. This match really needed juice, in my opinion. It would have really made things better. I'm not even going to blame Bayley for abandoning that duct tape spot. It was a bad idea to begin with. It was smart she left it alone.
What was she trying to do?
I don't know.
So she was trying to tape the candlesticks together so they would be in between the cell and the ring. And then she tripped over it, and then she realized, that looks so stupid.
And then she couldn't get the tape open, and she looked at the referee and was like, hey, I can't get this open. Can you help me? And the ref was like, no, I'm not going to help you with the tape.
That took forever.
For the third time, after the struck at WrestleMania, and the box cutter at SummerSlam. Terrible product placement.
Terrible product placement, and also another understanding that wrestlers do not know how to use basic tools at all. We saw this with Braun Strowman. We saw this with Braun Strowman, who instead of making a vertical cut, made this weird C in the ring. I don't know how he did that. And then we got Bayley, who cannot for the life of her figure out how to open a roll of duct tape. This is not looking good.
Where she tried to open it with her mouth.
It was pretty rough, and it was just, and that was kind of the thing.
That didn't even work.
That's kind of the thing that took me out of the moment. It's like those moments that were taking just too long to set up, that you knew were just parts of setup for other stuff. So it didn't feel like I wasn't getting as emotionally invested in these two beating the hell out of each other, because a lot of it was set up and do the spot, and then set up and do the spot, and it just wasn't. It wasn't as much the storytelling as I would have hoped, I guess.
I think the main problem that I have with this match is the story is basically they stopped in a main roster Sasha feud to recapture the NXT feud that was amazing, but they stopped it and started it again, stopped it and started it again so many times that how could you possibly care at this point?
Exactly. And the thing about this match is that Stacey is just like, let's throw everything on the wall and hope something sticks. And it felt like nothing stuck at all.
Yeah, I mean, another thing like the long setup, getting the table, and then Bayley just taking the table down and saying, no table for you. And just, it was long. It just went long, and the spots were long, and it was just, I wasn't feeling it. 10 minutes in, I was enjoying it. They had the first 10 minutes I loved. And then the match just kind of, I thought the finish was kind of blah. Honestly, it was okay, but this match I would have much rather seen just in a regular match. I don't think the sell was necessary for their
logic. Like the absence of logic throughout most of the stuff. Like the chair that Bayley brought in gets kicked out by Sasha, and then Bayley, about 15 minutes later, she goes to the door, and she happens to notice that the chair is next to the door, which is not where the chair was.
Yeah, I wonder how it got there.
Wow, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice that.
The chair is spray painted with a shovel on it, or a 1.
No, that was a 1 and O.
It looks like a dish.
It was whatever the meaning was. It was completely lost in translation.
And because this chair is so important, all the dumb props, the fire extinguisher, the duct tape, the spray paint.
Yeah, it really, I would have much rather seen just a singles match between these two at this point and really built up to a really important match at Mania. Hell, maybe a Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania so it could actually bear some significance again. If you really want to tell that story.
And silver cage, not a red one.
Yes.
Yes. But you know what's the thing that I popped for the most in this match? Was when Sasha was being attacked by a candlestick by Bayley. Sasha grabs the candlestick and she puts it inside the cell. And then she pushes the candlestick and it goes flying out of the cell. And it almost hit Michael Cole in the head.
Oh, that was great.
That was funny.
That was
funny.
great.
She was trying to put his head on a pike.
Dude, which I think, again, the three of us can all agree on. Right?
Yeah.
Right next to
We're going to hating Bayley.
And that happened, by the way, that spot happened 3 minutes into the match.
Oh, and that's another good thing to mention, too. One thing I've really liked about Bayley all year from every match I've seen of her is that she has always acknowledged that Michael Cole is in the same room in a closed quarters with her and yells back at him because she can hear him. And I appreciate that from Bayley because that's something real that if somebody was commentating some of the stupid lines that Cole said would do. She'd go like, shut the hell up, Cole. I think she yelled, shut up, Cole, at one point during this match.
Yeah, she grabbed the candlestick, hit Sasha, and then she held the candlestick and looked at Michael Cole and said, shut up or I'm going to come out there and beat you with this thing. Yeah, see, I love that.
I wish she did.
I love the acknowledgement that Cole is right there and that she gets annoyed at what he says. It's the best.
I love it whenever WWE acknowledges that no one likes Michael Cole.
That's the thing, is that Sasha and Bailey, they both really tried hard. This match not being good is not on them.
No, it's not.
Just WWE overproducing and over-choreographing a match that they didn't really need to overproduce or over-choreograph. Speaking of which, this match was put together by Tyson Kidd and Pat Buck.
Pat Buck?
Kidd, I don't know who he is.
I feel like the name sounds familiar, but I cannot recall Pat Buck. But Tyson Kidd,
Here.
that's a bit of a surprise.
Packard Buckridge? Oh, he's an Ohio Valley wrestling guy. But Tyson Kidd, we know Tyson Kidd, and he just... I don't know what he was doing with this match, but it wasn't working.
It was way too convoluted.
It was more spot and less story, and but you're right, Sky. They did try. They get the gold "you tried" sticker because it really was.
Yeah.
You really did put in the effort. We're not knocking the effort, just structure, I think.
Especially the finish.
And then Sasha getting the bank statement with a chair, and then kicking the chair with Bailey as she's in it, forcing Bailey to tap. Which I get why they did that, but. Also, what hurt this match for me was the fact that the build-up to this was that they had both had crippling Pillmanized neck injuries, and 2 weeks later are right to find in Hell in a Cell.
Yeah. They should have,
Wolverine genetic Healy factor.
A better finish would have been if Sasha got revenge and Pillmanized Bailey's neck and got the pin. That would have been better.
And then we didn't see Bailey for a while until maybe WrestleMania when they could have a match and Bailey could win the Rumble or something. I don't know.
Why is this company allergic to long-term booking?
Because
I don't think they're allergic. I think they just don't want to.
I think that they're so busy trying to keep everybody under that they stumble upon things that they can recur upon, and they're like, oh yeah, we did that the whole time. We were totally paying attention, and it's like, nah, you weren't, and we know you weren't, but way to try to piece that all together. It's like, and speaking of piecing things together, we are in the midst of a burial, gents, of a gimmick that is not good. It is Lashley of the Hurt. It is Lashley of the Hurt Business, who I love. I love the Hurt Business going up against Slapjack of Retribution, y'all. With Mustafa Ali at the head.
I felt so sorry for this guy. He could not see a thing in his mask when he was wrestling this match.
No. Bobby Lashley, 1 minute into the match, irate on the guy wearing a mask.
That's just genius.
That's just amazing.
Bobby Lashley, as usual, looked great, I thought. I thought that honestly, this guy Slapjack is not bad. You know, he took everything of Bobby's well. It's just that this was not meant to be anything more than just another member of Retribution getting beaten. The only thing serviceable about Retribution at all is Mustafa Ali's promo cutting ability, which I saw on the pre-show, and he actually is pretty solid.
And his hair. His freaking hair.
And his hair,
is amazing. He has a lion's mane, and I love it.
So this match was, again, another cool down, but this was another ice cold cool down. This was not really anything to write home about.
That drop kick that Slapjack, I can't even say his name, Slapjack tried to give Bobby Lashley, was quite possibly the worst drop kick I've ever seen in my life. It was horrendous. And I blame it on the mask.
Well, here's the thing, though, is that in a couple of days, we're going to watch Full Gear, and we'll tell you right now, there's going to be an even worse drop kick. They're going to do 1,000 of them.
If there's anything that Janelle is involved in, it's going to look worse than anything that we saw on this show. I guarantee you that.
Can you imagine Joey Janela with a mask on where he can't see out of it? Like
here's the thing, he may wrestle better with the mask on.
That's sadly true. That is sadly true. But we will get to bashing them later. This leads us to our main event.
Thank God. We don't even care who won that match.
It was Lashley via a full Nelson. It was what you expect. They all crowded the ring and then they left.
What he won.
Drew McIntyre facing Randy Orton. Probably 0.6% of this match actually was in a wrestling ring. But the final cell match of the night, the main event, it was great seeing Drew main event a pay-per-view for a change as the world champion.
And he loses.
And he loses.
It only took until the match that he lost the championship.
Well, the second that Drew came out first, I'm like, oh, this motherfucker losing it. It's just like, that's it. There's no way that he's winning if he's coming out first. And look
I
at that.
thought that this match was kind of long, but I enjoyed it.
Me too.
It was long, and there's one specific segment that we'll talk about later. There was a rib on me and Sean for the first 5 minutes of this match, and it was the fact that Randy Orton wrestled in pants.
I noticed that. It was weird.
Randy Orton tried to sneak attack Drew McIntyre by dressing up as a cameraman, and then Drew notices it. He attacks Randy Orton. They start fighting their way around the cage and then get inside the cage. And then Drew McIntyre got Randy Orton's shirt off, but Randy Orton kept his pants on. And it looked like he was baggy, and his trunks looked like underwear. And I was waiting for, here go the pants.
Well, that's the thing. It was one of two things I had to fear. It was either Tom Phillips getting the opportunity because Angel Garza was no longer on the show, that the tribute to Angel Garza after his injury would be Randy Orton tearing off his pants and Tom Phillips getting to say with all of the Michael Cole he could muster, there go the pants! And doing that. Or Randy Orton was just showing homage to the Usos and Roman Reigns by just baggying up his pants, which is not as exciting as the first one, but those were the two options that we had.
Yes, they were.
This
But
match...
Honestly, I would have preferred the Angel Garza tribute because that would have been hilarious.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have put it
But
past
I
him.
have to say, yeah, but I have to say, everything Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre does is fantastic. And it's not always the big thing. It's always the little things. The way Randy Orton sells for Drew McIntyre, you can tell how much these guys really love working with each other.
Yeah.
They have chemistry.
They do. And I have to say, this might be a bold statement just because of the nature of smarkdom, and I know I will give a flag. I think Randy Orton has had one of the best years of any wrestler this year. He's had one of the best 2020s. With the way that he's been working and how he's been working with guys, how much energy he's been put in to, how much energy he's putting into the matches he's working. He's working with people he likes, which is another big factor involved in it. It's now winning the WWE Championship, even if he is a transitional champion. You know, I know that this is a bit of a kayfabe statistician, but his matches are all solid. They're the stuff that I look forward to probably the most on most of these cards up to this point.
Pretty much his only blemish this year was that WrestleMania match. It's probably still going on as we speak.
No, it can't be, because if it was going on even as we speak, we wouldn't be watching this match.
No, he has a clone that's still wrestling Edge in that last man standing match.
The last man standing match, or the greatest wrestling match ever.
The greatest match ever was actually really good. The last man standing match was... I no longer require melatonin when I go to sleep at night.
It was long. It was real long. And but save for that, I mean, still, everything is up to this point has been a build-up there. And, I mean, this is no exception. This was a really fun match. They teased a lot of things. What was up with the red lead pipe?
Oh, no. Oh, God.
What was the purpose of that?
Before we get there. So, well, do we want to get there?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, fine. So Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, they wrestle in the ring and around the ring in the cell. And Randy Orton gets a pair of bolt cutters, which Sean immediately pointed out, why the hell do they have bolt cutters for a Hell in a Cell?
Yeah, I would love to know who put
no one can
cutters there.
escape the cell unless you have bolt cutters.
Which we've conveniently provided you in the ring, so, you know.
Right. The only thing I can think of is maybe in the sense of an emergency, if the cell doesn't lift up and they need to get inside, they have the bolt cutters, but that's so flimsy. Anyways, Randy Orton climbs the cell for no apparent reason, because he can't win the match up there.
Well, because he's in the Twizzler Playhouse, Sky. He's in the Twizzler Playhouse. He's like, come on, Drew, play with me. I'm going up to the top of the cell because it's a Twizzler.
Just come up here so we can keep the cage together, Drew.
Well, Drew McIntyre agreed. He goes up to the top. These two are at the top of the cell, almost touching the electric board at the top of the cell, and Randy Orton has a red pipe that comes out of nowhere that looks like a red lightsaber.
Yeah, damn.
And
That was-
I swear to God, if Drew McIntyre had pulled out like a green or blue lightsaber colored pipe and they started sword fighting at the top of the cage, I would have popped for it.
Me too. I totally
like
would.
Bully Ray and that one guy at that one TNA pay-per-view
Kylo Ren.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
They actually
And then-
did that 10 years ago, and it was amazing.
And then Drew McIntyre tries to attack Randy. Randy hits him in the knee because Drew McIntyre was looking at him. And then after this one spot they do with the pipe, Randy drops it. They start coming down the cell on the other side towards the announce table. And Randy Orton hits Drew McIntyre off the cell. And Drew goes through the announce table, and he bit his lip when he was going down to the announce table, and he starts putting up in his mouth. He's bleeding.
And this was the juice I mean, it wasn't ideal, but it was at least juice that I could serviceably accept. I'm like, yay, bloodshed. I know, it's...
And we had blood, not just in a cell match, in the main event.
It sounds, you know, out of context, saying yay, bloodshed probably was not the smartest thing to do, but... but
We've also been talking about putting people's heads on pikes this entire podcast.
That's true.
so.
That's true. We did
Listen,
set the tone early.
People, well, let's be clear when we're saying this. We are not asking for blood because we want to see people get hurt and die. We're asking for blood because we want to see the scars that these guys are going through. We want to feel like this is a realistic fight. Like these two guys are doing hell to each other, and blood helps. It helps with their SummerSlam match. It helps with their Clash of Champions match, and it helps with this match.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and think, you know, I'm not saying blood is good for every match because it's not, but in certain circumstances, especially how limited WWE is about it, it's like when you get it, you're like, oh, yes. So it's like every so often I'd like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see the double blade.
And that's the amazing thing, too. 3 matches that they have, and 3 separate times they're able to get blood, and it's all hard way.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing. Nobody else lays it into each other like they do. I mean, I feel like they're beating the piss out of each other because they like each other so much. You know, it's like
That's another strange thing to say out of context.
Sexual when you think about it.
it's a really
Remember at the beginning of this matchup, Randy Orton had Drew McIntyre's head down, and he started whispering sweet nothings in his ear. And then about 5 minutes later, Drew McIntyre did the same thing. Held Randy Orton's head down, and he whispered sweet nothings to Randy Orton, asking each other to shake each other's hands.
That's true. That's true. That is true.
And Randy Orton had his pants around Drew McIntyre's neck and started choking him with it.
And you said it looked like a red lightsaber. I was gonna say like a fleshlight, but
No, because it was too big. They don't make them that big.
where's this going?
And folks, as we are approaching the hour mark here on the Hell in a Cell 2020 review, I'd like to remind you that there is sponsor space available. That's right. If you would like your advertisement, your product to be showcased on the Court-Martail podcast, you just hit me up and we will have a conversation about getting your product placement here. I could do discounts if you want the discounts as far as promo codes and all that. This would be where you'd put it right now in the middle of this exact conversation. This was where you can be. Just contact your Colonial Champion trump card.
I just had an idea. Instead of putting people's heads on a pike, put their heads on a fleshlight.
What? No, we're not Marco Stunt. We're not Marco Stunt. Okay, drawing the line here.
Listen, Joshua. I had to have Marco Stunt arrested on my show to write him off for that damn thing.
So Drew and Orton go up to the top of the cell and just come back down practically
For the big finish.
because there was no jump off the cell, because there was no one named Shane McMahon in the match, so you couldn't do it because only Shane jumps off high stuff.
I was hoping that Randy Orton would RKO Drew McIntyre on the top of the cell.
Dude, if he did, they need to do that one year.
Well, this was it would be something. So they fight back into the ring, and then it looks like Drew's got the match won. He hits a Claymore. There's a kick out. And then he tries to go for the...
No.
He tried... Hold on. Before that...
Kick out. He rolled out of the ring.
He tries to go for the backslide that he won with at Clash of Champions, or not Clash of
SummerSlam.
Champions, that SummerSlam, and does not get
I like
it.
that callback.
Then gets the Claymore, then Randy rolls out of the ring, then he tries again and gets RKO'd. One RKO, and that's the match.
One RKO, the most dangerous 3 letters in sports entertainment, ladies and gentlemen.
I am never
I
going
don't
to
know if you
dispute.
guys have noticed this, but they're really reducing the number of finisher kickouts.
I think
now
it's smart.
It takes only one finisher kickout. It only takes one finisher most of the time to end matches.
Thank God.
I am all about protecting finishers, but I feel like this would have been one of those times to make Randy Orton give 2 of them.
Yeah.
It's a Hell in a Cell. It's the 3rd time these 2 have faced each other. It's really the only match that feels like it deserved to be in the cell in the first place. This could have been... I could have taken a second RKO here, and that is something I do not normally say.
Or he kicks out of the RKO and then Randy Orton punts him.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, something.
Right, like something sort of an escalation of Randy Orton to a higher move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only complaint I really had with this match. Everything else was fun.
Yeah. But and also my favorite spot in this entire match was the belly-to-belly suplex to the table.
That was
The
also really
rotation
nice.
Randy Orton got on that suplex. I've never seen Randy Orton move so fast.
Drew,
But that looked
Oh,
brutal.
are you talking about Randy Orton moving fast? He did a neck breaker. His neck breaker, well, not a neck breaker, or back breaker. The thing where he does it over his back.
yeah, he did. He
Yeah.
did that like
So
over the head
quick.
neck back breaker. Yeah,
Yeah.
He did it so quick to Randy Orton, and he almost never does it quick.
yeah, it was nice. It's great seeing Orton try.
Yeah.
He's been given opponents so that he can try, and I like that he's been trying this year, and maybe that's why I'm looking so highly on him. But I feel like this with people still would have fallen flat, unfortunately, and it wouldn't have been the fault of either of those 2. I think it would have just been the way the finish went.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the reason that they are only doing the one finisher kickout thing is because there are no people in the audience. If there were people in the crowd, they definitely would have done 2 RKOs, or an RKO followed by a punt.
Yeah, I suppose, but then again, this is WWE we were talking about, so we're having to assume that they would have inserted additional logic into what little they've already spared to put this show together. But overall, Sky,
By the way, do you want to know who put together that match?
who did put that match together?
Chris Park of this.
Of course.
Really?
Of course.
That's interesting.
Abyss is a great agent.
Good on him. I've always liked Abyss. Well, we'll have to have a superstar spotlight on Abyss and his career because he's got some things to definitely dive into, and that'd be really fun to watch. But overall, Sky, Hell in a Cell 2020, your final thoughts on the show altogether.
So this show was 3 hours, and it didn't feel like 3 hours because it didn't drag. Yes, there were cool-down matches, but they were short enough that I could just, breeze by them. Moreover, the 2 matches, the one that started the Hell in a Cell and the one that ended it, were both exceptionally good for me. And you can't really say that about most WWE shows. And there was enough that I found enjoyable. I'm not going to give it a higher score than I probably normally do, because there are still things that are kind of dragging the show down for me. But this show for me was definitely better than SummerSlam. It was definitely better than Clash of Champions, which I gave 5 out of 10. So I'm going to give this show a 6 out of 10.
All right, a 6 out of 10 from the one and the only Skyler Greenberg. All right, JoshAgeddon, give us your ranking.
Well, as we were watching the show, as I was watching it live, I was sending you guys messages, and I was like, oh, I like this. This absolutely sucks and is hideous. Why are they doing this? So I don't think I enjoyed all 3 cell matches. I know you 2 were kind of hard on the Bayley-Sasha match. It was probably the least good. It was definitely the least good cell match on the show, but I still personally enjoyed it, although I did feel it was a little too convoluted, and Bayley wrestling with duct tape was hilarious. But yeah, the cell matches were good. Everything else was either or just sucked. So I'm going to be similar to Skyler. I'm going to give this a 6.5 out of 10.
A 6.5
Wow, you're giving it a higher score.
and a 6. Which brings it down to me, and I overall I feel like this was a bookended show. You know, it had a great first match that I was really invested in, and a fun main event that really had its moments. And props to Drew and Orton also for having 2 cell matches going on before it and still being able to make that gimmick feel fresh and workable. And everything else was it was okay. The Miz taking the briefcase from Otis, the pop highlight for me was that going down. That was almost like that little teeny glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel for WWE. They're like, oh, they're starting to get something. And I know I shouldn't have that glimmer of hope, but I'm going to give this show also a 6.5.
You should know better by now.
I'm also going to give it a 6.5 with the idea that maybe the last few Survivor Series have not been that bad. So with some hope that maybe Survivor Series will be better. So
well, here's the thing. One of the people that is wrestling on Survivor Series is Nia Jax.
Oh, no.
And she's also teammates with Lana.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. And Otis will be there, too. Great. So
Otis
We're going to have to watch Survivor Series.
we're watching Survivor Series. We're making it happen.
Joshua,
Why do you hate me?
Joshua, I'm going to give you a pass on Survivor Series. So I know if you watch
my
Survivor
kid,
Series, you're going to put your own head on a pike.
I'm not. You're watching Survivor Series.
I have no choice because I'm his co-host.
No, you both. You watch your mouth, sir. But you have to. You also, JoshAgeddon, have to watch.
I know.
We're gonna make this happen. Survivor Series. So booking a future date. That is how we do it here at the Court-Martail podcast.
And also shake my hand.
And so with that said, first of all, Skyler, thank you very much for being a part of this Hell in a Cell 2020 review. Always great to have you on the show, my man.
Thank you, my man. And I will see you all next time after
Next week for Full Gear. Hooray!
Thank you all for joining us, all 3 of us, on the Totally Awesome podcast. And I guess we will see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Yes,
this has been an interesting double podcast.
It has.
And I look forward to more in the future.
And that's going to close up the Totally Awesome podcast. Josh, again, thank you very much. It's now time for the Court-Martail podcast to take our first commercial break. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you after these short messages.